Just yesterday, browsing a bit through the news on the internet, I read that next month they're going to reopen in Paris the Notre Dame, that big cathedral. Maybe some of you recall what happened in April 2019, that the Notre Dame basically burned down, one of the most important cathedrals of Christendom. And for a while there was even a discussion whether it would be possible to rebuild that beautiful medieval cathedral. I myself was particularly moved by that event in April 2019 because for a few months I had had the occasion, it must have been in 1993 or 1992, to work in that cathedral as a confessor. How beautiful it was to be in that symbol of medieval Christendom for a number of months, just walking through it, admiring the stained windows, glass-stained windows, following the beautiful liturgy. Though France nowadays is a very secular country, it is still called the oldest daughter of the Catholic Church, as it was, so to say, the first country that took up the faith after the popes took possession in Rome. And though France being a secular country, it was the government of 2019 that we need to do something about this. We need to rebuild this church. This is not only a symbol of Christendom of that, but is part of our French identity. And they called on private funders, donors, to contribute money. And in fact, within less than a month, the French and probably also people from abroad contributed more than 1 billion euros. I'm not sure how much that is in shilling, but about 150 billion shilling. Now, just this morning, reading on that story of Notre Dame that is going to be reopened in December of this year, there was a little article that said of those more than 1 billion euros that had been put aside for the restoration and rebuilding of the cathedral, about 110 million euros were still left as a surplus. And they were thinking about now how to use best this money. And I had to smile a bit because I thought, now, would this have happened in Kenya? Did you ever hear of a project with a surplus where people were asking now what to do with this money? We will always make sure we have eaten it till the last shilling. That cathedral there in Paris, the Notre Dame, Our Lady it means, was built in the 12th, 13th century. I think it took them about 150 years to build that church. It went by bits and pieces. It reminds me a bit, by the way, of the Basilica of the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. If you ever go to Spain, go to Barcelona, visit that church that was designed by the architect Gaudi. I think they are in the beatification process of Gaudi. And that church was also started at the end of the 19th century, 1880, 1890. And it was only very recently, maybe 5, 6 years ago, another monument of Christendom. Now, in that 12th century, when the Notre Dame, when the construction of the Notre Dame was started, there was a man that came to study in Paris. His name was Thomas of Aquinas. Thomas came to one of the very first universities in the world. One of the very first universities was, in fact, opened in Paris. At that time, in the 12th century, even in the 11th century, so to say, though the popes lived in Rome, in many ways, the intellectual center, the cultural center, was much more found in Paris and maybe in Cologne than that it was in Rome, because Rome had lost much of its splendor and importance. Thomas went to study there, one of the first universities, the universities that had come forth from the monastery schools. Remember, if you studied a bit your church history, I hope you did, then you might know that especially after the collapse of the Roman Empire, it were the monasteries, especially the Benedictine monasteries, bravo to Father Edward, that continued to teach culture, that continued to teach Greek culture, that continued to teach all those subjects that in a sense had gotten lost in the turmoil around the collapse of the Roman Empire. And Thomas is part of that new generation of university, universitas. What the Catholic Church wanted to do is to bring all these subjects together, the arts, the languages, astronomy, physics, mathematics, and put them all under one roof so that we could see how each and every subject is connected to the other, and that in the Catholic University, keep in mind, that was the only university that existed. Keep in mind, universities as we know them today, whether they are Catholic or not, are an initiative, an invention of the Catholic Church. Before the Catholic Church, there were no university, period. Neither Kenyatta, neither Nairobi, nothing of the kind. It all comes from us. Pat yourself on the shoulder, so to say. Yes. We need to be proud that we are Catholics. Never forget that you are the best club in town. One of the things that Thomas of Aquinas taught then in his Summa Theologica, I hope that some of you even opened that book. He always would say, like, veritas est pulchrum et bonum, which is very simple Latin. Basically, you should know this. The truth is always beautiful and good. Truth is beautiful and good. And if you look to that cathedral there in Paris, yes, it is beautiful. It is good because it stands for the truth. It stands for the mystery of Christ and his mother. It stands for the truth that is incarnated. I am the way, the truth, and the life, says Jesus. It is that truth that reveals itself not only in my heart, but also reveals itself in culture. A sad thing, by the way, that happens nowadays at many universities, even at the so-called Faculty of Arts. We teach all kinds of things in that faculty except arts. What about painting? What about sculpture? What about music? The typical expressions of culture in which we express the beauty and the goodness of God. Truth is beauty and goodness. Now, what happened in Enlightenment, and also that you should know, that truth was in a sense disconnected, that truth was based only on reason and disconnected from faith. Thomas of Aquinas, very much still, based the truth on the belief in God himself. So to say, God is the guarantor and the fountain of all truth. And that is what we as Christians believe. What Enlightenment did is, yes, truth is based on human reason, and if you want to believe in God, that is okay, but do it inside doors. Don't bother me with the faith. Keep it objective, as we would say. Keep it rational, as we would say. Keep God out of the equation. That is where we come from. In a sense, you and me, even though we are from a different background, even though we come from different cultures, even from a different age and different language, we are still, up to a certain extent, the children of enlightenment. However, in our times already, we are going one step further. Not only do we disconnect truth from faith, and we say it was built on reason, nowadays we even put reason aside. Truth, well, you know, that is your truth, and this is my truth. And I believe this, well, you know, if you want to believe that, that's okay, but please respect my opinion. I have my own truth, and we don't reason about it. Please don't discuss my truth. That is basically where we are now with our culture in the world. In a sense, I'm saying something very dangerous now, but I still think it is true. Even the Synod, which was just celebrated in Rome, up to a certain extent was affected by it. Because it was said, you only should listen to what the other says, but you should never criticize it or discuss it. So, basically, even if I maybe in my heart find that you are saying utter stupidity, I still should respect it. And even though maybe I feel deep in my heart and with my theological preparation that what you say is basically a heresy and you shouldn't even be a Catholic anymore, I'm not allowed to say that. Basically, it's about listening, respecting each other's opinion. And basically that it's built then on nothing else but my personal power. Me as an individual, I'm my own God. And I am my own reason, and I am my own truth. And please respect me for that. Today, it's not only about that we reject truth up to a certain extent, at least, in the sense that there is no universal truth, there are no universal values, therefore, then also it gets very difficult to communicate with each other, because how does that exactly work? Because basically we do not even speak the same language anymore, even though we both speak English. But our concepts and our backgrounds are already so different. Not only is it not anymore about truth, but of course then, if Thomas of Aquinas said, and I think the man was right when he says, veritas as pulchrum et bonum, then also beauty becomes a problem. In fact, our society, especially Western society, thanks be to God you live in Nairobi and not in Europe, has become very much a society that is very cynical and feels that everything that presents itself as beautiful or good should, in a sense, be destroyed. Because by appearing as good and beautiful, it claims, in a sense, truth. And it claims, therefore, to be over and beyond me. And therefore, I cannot accept that because it goes against my freedom. Therefore, I have to cancel it. I have to destroy it. That is what we call the so-called cancel culture. Anything that has value in life, anything that is beautiful, objectively beautiful in life, in the terms of art and artistic expression, I should be canceling. In the dictionary, in the modern urban dictionary, it even says, they give a kind of a definition of what that is, cancel culture. It says it is quick to judge, slow to question. Quick to judge, slow to question. The problem is a bit that even at times our generation, the Gen Z, is already affected by that. Through X, not Twitter anymore, but X or TikTok. Many opinions pass by, and you react very quickly. Yes, 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 yes. No, 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 no. And what today I'm in favor of, tomorrow I'm against. Depending a bit where the group of the moment is moving and how the fashion is going and where people are most gathering, on which Twitter account has the most reactions, then I want to be there as well. Cancel culture. Judging on, well, what the majority says, what people says. By the way, that's a bit the danger of democracy at times. The majority decides, and sometimes the majority is wrong. Look to Christ himself. Christ himself was very much part of that cancel culture, in the sense, not part, but victim of that cancel culture. The people said, crucify him, let him come down from the cross. They were jeering him. Quick to judge, slow to question. Our culture is more and more sliding into that. A way to avoid that is to study history. One of the things I've noticed in my time in Kenya, it's already more than 5 years, is that, frankly speaking, if I may say, Kenyans know very little about their history, even about their recent history. What they know about what their parents or grandparents told them a bit. But even at schools, I at times feel that they do not teach enough history. What happened exactly, for example, during colonialism? What happened exactly? I mean, facts, names, dates. What happened exactly during the uprisings, during Mau Mau? What happened at the independence? How did that exactly work? What happened during the regime of Jomo Kenyatta, President Moi, Kibaki, Uhuru Kenyatta, and now, very recently and still, President Ruto? What are the facts? In many ways, it seems that Kenyans are like going along with the movement, a bit like a zombie at times. Not really reflecting too much on what is happening in their country. I was reading a book, beautiful book about the Mau Mau uprising, and the book is called The Imperial Reckoning, it is called. It's written, I think, by an American journalist, a lady, and she did quite an in-detail research on what did now exactly happen. And she interviewed many people who are still survivors, still alive from that time. And one of the things I came to learn is the existence of the concentration camps in Kenya and the torture that was taking place on people in Kenya. But then, to my surprise, for example, in Europe, we had also the concentration camps, just 10 years, so to say, before the Mau Mau uprising. Or that the British government, they turn off the microphone at this point, of course, that the British government of the 50s of last century, who itself had gone that the British government, which itself had gone through the horrors of the Second World War and had seen the concentration camps with all the death and torture and sickness and misery of that time, that 10 years later, the same they repeated here. Now, the difference between, so to say, my country and Kenya is, what we did in my country is we put there a monument with a memorial. And each year, people would go there to remember those people. And we would say that it never may happen again. That it never may happen again. Because the weird thing with history is that it repeats itself if you're not careful. Because we are very human. Even religious brothers, fathers, and sisters, they are very human. That is something probably which even at our universities we would have to teach more, so that we create a historical awareness in our people. Because then historical awareness also creates political awareness. University. University, therefore, is much more than just learning about facts. It's much more than coming to this place today, finally a graduate, tomorrow you have this beautiful gown like Harry Potter. At a university, scholars and artists and students, they come together to tell the story of time and place and people. It's about building up. It's not only about facts, it's not only about mathematics, it's not only about physics, it's not only about numbers, it's not only about economy, but it's about creating a civilization. A civilization for us at Tangaza, basically, even though officially, by the way, we're still not a Catholic university, but inshallah that may come. But we want to be that civilization of the church, which is founded on Jesus. You know, there was this constitution today. We have what is the nowadays? What is the constitution of the university called again? The latest one is Veritatis Gaudium. What is it? The constitution on universities. Veritatis Gaudium. Yes, I had to wake up Father Man. Yeah. Before that, there was accorded ecclesia, out of the heart of the church. And that is what Catholic universities are all about, that we are built on the heart of Jesus. We are a civilization that comes from far away, mind you. It's not a civilization of the last 150 years, maybe since missions started in Kenya. But it comes from much farther away. It comes all the way from the Old Testament, from the people of God, from the chosen people. That is also why the church, per definition, needs to fight any symptom of anti-Semitism. Because at the moment that anti-Semitism appears, so that when people start to attack the Jewish people, in a sense, they are cutting our roots. We came out of Judaism. It is from Judaism that we came to the Greeks. Read St. Paul. All his letters were written in what was then Greece. And he himself wrote only in Greek. And from there, it went to the Roman Empire, to Rome. We got, so to say, the moral code. We got to believe in the one God we got from Judaism. And then it was translated through Greek philosophy into a more open vocabulary and understandable and philosophical vocabulary, and was then taken up into the Roman culture of law, of roads, of architecture and government. Truth, beauty, goodness. Latin, Hebrew, Greek. By the way, are you aware of that all these three languages still exist in our Holy Eucharist? Latin, of course, you even sang it just now, Gloria in excelsis Deo. It's there, of course we know, and you can still celebrate in Latin. But even Hebrew, Alleluia, Amen, Hosanna. All these are Hebrew expressions. And Greek, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, and even Christos, which means as much as the Anointed One. All these languages we still take with us in our culture, in Holy Mass, and it is these languages and these cultures on which our church is built. And it is an ongoing process. You might imagine, at least I imagine, I will not be here anymore, but maybe in 100 or 150 years, even English might have become something like Latin, a dead language, and a new language will have taken over. Maybe it will be Spanish, or maybe Swahili, who knows? These are the languages and cultures that will continue to carry the mystery of the church into time. Truth, beauty, goodness. And in a sense, those three languages, Latin, Hebrew, Greek, they were straight from the beginning, even before we realized that they were already part of the Catholic Church. Remember in what languages the sentence was put on the cross of Jesus. Jesus Christ, King of the Jews. Jesu, what is it? Yeshua Christos, Melech HaYeduim in Hebrew. In Greek, I wouldn't know. Who was it in Greek? Father Manya? But already there, it was there in a nutshell. University is about building civilization. It's much more than just knowledge. Civilization, which expresses itself in art, but expresses itself also in our being, the way we behave, even in the way we dress. It's about formation in virtue, that we are strong, that we are outgoing, that we are courageous, but also formation, for example, in humility. Only a humble student can be in the sense that only if you know that you do not know, you are able to learn. By the way, that is sometimes, frankly speaking, also a problem with professors. Professors sometimes give the impression that they know it all, while they do not. And therefore, for example, at an exam, that professor will just want you to repeat exactly what he had taught you in class. Don't go over beyond that, and do not try to be original, because you will have a C-. Because many times also professors, they are like a bit like the zombie. Being in their deadly routine, repeating class after class after class after class after class after class, the same thing all over again. But basically there's nothing new in their teaching. By the way, that is also what basically a professor should do. And you should ask yourself, how many new articles did you publish this year? How much did you really contribute to the progress of science and theology? And how much are you just torturing and teasing students? Because, of course, if you're not able to produce something in the scientific field or in your field, because basically you're too tired or too lazy or not capable, then you will get no authority from there. So therefore, you need to get your authority from the way you handle your students. Frankly speaking, that's psychologically the way it works. So university is much more than the one-way traffic of a teacher saying, now it's A, B, C, D, blackboard. Write that down now. I don't see you write this down. Write it down. And then you come to the exam, and of course students are confused. That's the way students are. And then you have been stamping this, A, B, A was this, B was that, C, D. Now, was this now D or was this E? And then you put the E because you thought the D was E and the E was D. You put it like that at the exam, and he will just mark it as wrong because it was not in the right order. I told you this is D and not that. At a university, it's not the one-way interaction. At a university, it's discussion in many ways. That was the medieval university about. It was a dialogue between students, in which but you have these professors. Of course, I've myself been a student. By the way, I also have been a professor. But you have these professors who do not allow for any questions in the classroom. They come into the class for the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And they would just start. And the next exam is next week, Thursday. That's it, period. That is not teaching. I mean, I can also get that from the internet, basically. It's about a dialogue in which I provoke the student and the student provokes me. And together we try to get beyond our own limits. So it's very much about the gift of humility, not only for the student, but also for the professor. By the way, it's also about the gift of chastity, in the sense that chastity is much more than just to abstain from sexual relations or sexual relations also only within a certain legal context. Chastity is about, I'm able to give my life for you completely as you are able to give your life for me completely. And as long as that is not the case, we should be abstaining. And in a sense, even in the classroom, it's like that. Are you able to give your life for the students in the sense that your energy, everything you have, and you as a student, how are you in your studies? Is that something, well, you do basically because it's boring and annoying and your superior told you to do this, and now if she really wants this, let me now do this because I don't feel like it. I wanted to do something completely different, but she didn't listen, therefore I have to do this. Well, then you will not succeed in your studies. How much are you really able to give? Catholic University, civilization, long history. Know your history. Be humble, be chaste, be virtuous. Look to Jesus on the cross, who gave himself completely for us. And with that, he established a culture of love, peace, and justice, a culture of veritas pulchrum et bonum, a civilization of which we are proud, civilization of which we are all children, sons and daughters. Let us be proud of our Catholic culture. Let us be the new fathers and mothers who will bear many children into this world of a better world, in which we work for justice and peace in our own country, for veritas, pulchrum et bonum. Amen.